The courtroom was a cage of whispers, and Sarah Coleman's heart pounded like a war drum. She sat in the defendant's chair, her wrists still raw from the handcuffs, her eyes fixed on the empty witness stand where her fate would be decided. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for her daughter, Lily, and the love she'd built with Grace over a decade of hard-won battles. Sarah, 42, was no stranger to struggle. Growing up in the small town of Willow Creek, Oregon, she learned early that love could be a lightning rod for judgment. She'd come out as a lesbian at 19, in 2002, when the world felt less forgiving, especially in a place where church sermons still dictated Sunday mornings. Her parents had tried to fix her with conversion therapy, but Sarah had clawed her way out, building a life on her own terms. She'd met Grace Gwynn, a 41-year-old artist with a fire in her soul, at a Portland art gallery in 2010. Grace's paintings, vivid, chaotic bursts of color, mirrored the way she loved, fiercely, unapologetically. They'd married in 2015, the year same-sex marriage became legal, and adopted Lily, a bright, curious girl who'd been in foster care since she was 6. Now, in the fall of 2025, Sarah faced a charge that could unravel everything: resisting arrest. The accusation stemmed from a chaotic night 2 months ago, outside the diner where she worked as a manager. A cop, Officer Daniel Holt, claimed she'd shoved him during a heated confrontation. But the truth was messier, buried in a web of prejudice and power. Sarah hadn't resisted. She'd been protecting Lily from a situation that spiraled out of control. And now Lily, at 16, was the only one who could set the record straight. The night it happened, Sarah had been closing up the diner, a cozy spot called Mabel's, where locals gathered for coffee and gossip. It was late, nearly 11 p.m., and Lily was waiting for her in a booth, sketching in her notebook. Grace was at home, finishing a painting for an upcoming gallery show. The diner's neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a pink glow over the parking lot. That's when Officer Holt pulled up, his cruiser's lights flashing. "Sarah Coleman," he called, stepping out with a swagger that screamed trouble. Sarah wiped her hands on her apron, her gut twisting. Holt had a reputation in Willow Creek, rumors of targeting anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of normal. Sarah and Grace, openly queer and unapologetic, had always been on his radar. "What's this about?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice steady. Lily looked up from her sketch, her green eyes narrowing. "Got a call about a disturbance," Holt said, his tone clipped. "You causing trouble again?" The disturbance was a lie. Sarah knew it instantly. The diner was empty except for her and Lily, and the night had been quiet. But Holt's eyes lingered on her wedding ring, then flicked to the rainbow sticker on the diner's door. His smirk said everything his words didn't. "There's no disturbance," Sarah said, stepping toward the door. "We're just closing up." Holt moved closer, his hand resting on his holster. "Step back, ma'am. I need to check inside." Lily stood, her sketchbook falling to the floor. "Mom, what's going on?" "Stay there, Lil," Sarah said, her voice tight. She turned to Holt. "You got a warrant?" His face hardened. "Don't need one if I suspect trouble. Now move." What happened next was a blur. Holt pushed past Sarah, his shoulder knocking her aside. Lily shouted, rushing toward her mom. Sarah instinctively stepped between them, her hands up to calm things down. But Holt spun, grabbing her arm, twisting it behind her back. "You're resisting," he barked, slamming her against the counter. Lily screamed, her voice cutting through the night. By the time Grace arrived, alerted by a frantic call from Lily, Sarah was in cuffs, her cheek bruised from the scuffle. Holt's report painted her as the aggressor, claiming she'd shoved him first. The truth that he'd targeted her, provoked her, and twisted the narrative was buried under his badge's weight. Now, in the courtroom, Sarah's lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel Torres, leaned close. "Lily's testimony is our best shot," she whispered. "But she's scared. You know how much this town's gossip has hurt her." Sarah nodded, her throat tight. Lily had faced her own battles, bullied at school for having two moms, whispered about in hallways. Yet she'd grown into a fierce, compassionate girl, her sketches filled with dreams of a world kinder than the one she knew. Sarah's heart ached at the thought of her daughter taking the stand, exposing herself to a town that loved to judge. The judge, a stern man with gray hair, banged his gavel. "Next witness," he called. Lily stood, her red curls catching the light. She wore a simple blue dress, her hands trembling as she clutched her sketchbook. Sarah's breath caught. This was it, the moment that could save her or break them all. As Lily walked to the stand, Sarah remembered the first time they'd met her, a skinny 9-year-old with a guarded smile. She and Grace had promised her a home, a family, a place to belong. Now, Lily was about to fight for that promise in a way neither of them could have imagined. The prosecutor, a man with a slick suit and sharper words, began his questions. "Miss Coleman-Gwynn, can you confirm your mother's actions that night?" Lily's eyes met Sarah's, steady and fierce. "My mom didn't resist," she said, her voice clear despite the tremor. "She was protecting me." Officer Holt lied. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Sarah's heart swelled, but fear gnawed at her. The truth was out, but would it be enough in a town where prejudice often outweighed justice? The courtroom air felt thick, charged with the weight of Lily's words. She stood tall on the witness stand, her knuckles white around her sketchbook, her green eyes locked on the prosecutor. Sarah's chest tightened. She wanted to shield her daughter from the scrutiny, but Lily was no longer the timid girl who'd hidden behind her moms. The prosecutor, Michael Vance, adjusted his tie, his smile thin and calculated. "Miss Coleman-Gwynn," he said, pacing slowly, "you're saying Officer Holt fabricated his report. That's a serious accusation from a 16-year-old. Can you explain why he'd do that?" Lily's jaw tightened. "Because he doesn't like my moms," she said. "He's been hassling them for years. Everyone in Willow Creek knows it." A few spectators shifted uncomfortably. Willow Creek was small, its secrets whispered over coffee at Mabel's or in church pews. Officer Holt's disdain for Sarah and Grace wasn't news, but saying it aloud in court felt like tossing a match into dry grass. Vance raised an eyebrow. "So, you're claiming bias. But let's focus on that night. Your mother pushed Officer Holt, didn't she?" "No," Lily said firmly. "She stepped in front of me to keep him away. He grabbed her first." Sarah's mind flashed back to that night. Holt's hand on her arm, the sharp twist, the way Lily's scream had pierced her heart. She'd only wanted to protect her daughter, to keep Holt's aggression from spilling over. But his report had turned her defense into defiance, her love into a crime. Rachel Torres stood for cross-examination, her voice calm but piercing. "Lily, can you walk us through exactly what happened in the diner?" Lily took a deep breath. "I was sitting in a booth, drawing. Mom was locking up. Officer Holt came in, saying there was a disturbance, but there wasn't. He got mad when Mom asked for a warrant. Then he pushed her, and I got scared. I ran toward her, and that's when he twisted her arm and said she was resisting." Rachel nodded. "Did your mother raise her voice or act aggressively?" "No," Lily said. "She was trying to calm things down. She always does." Sarah's eyes stung. Grace, seated in the gallery, gripped the bench, her dark hair falling over her face as she fought tears. They'd built their family on love, but Willow Creek had never fully accepted them. The rainbow sticker on the diner's door, the pride flag in their yard, small acts of defiance that invited glares and whispers. Holt's actions that night weren't random, they were a culmination of years of resentment. The judge called a recess, and Sarah was led back to a holding room. Grace rushed to her, pulling her into a fierce hug. "Lily's incredible," Grace whispered, her voice thick. "She's fighting for you." "For us," Sarah corrected, her lips brushing Grace's forehead. "But I'm scared for her. This town, it's cruel." Grace pulled back, her eyes blazing. "Let them talk. Lily's stronger than they know." Back in the courtroom, The prosecution called Holt to the stand. He was a broad man in his late 40s, his uniform crisp, his expression smug. He recounted his version: a routine patrol, a call about a disturbance, Sarah's aggressive behavior. "She shoved me," he said, his voice steady. "I had no choice but to restrain her." Rachel's cross-examination was relentless. "Officer Holt, you mentioned a disturbance call. Can you provide the record of that call?" Holt hesitated. "It was anonymous. Didn't log a number." "Convenient," Rachel said, her tone dry. "And you're aware of the Coleman-Gwynn family's history in this town? Their visibility as a same-sex couple." "Objection," Vance called. "Irrelevant." "Sustained," the judge said, but Rachel's point lingered. The jury, 12 locals, some familiar faces from Mabel's, shifted in their seats. Sarah knew half of them went to the same church that had once called her an abomination. Could they see past their biases? As Holt stepped down, Sarah's mind drifted to the life she and Grace had built. They'd moved to Willow Creek in 2017, wanting a quieter life for Lily. Grace's art thrived in Portland's galleries, but here, she painted in their garage, her canvases a rebellion against the town's gray conformity. Sarah managed Mabel's, pouring her heart into a place that welcomed everyone: truckers, teens, misfits. But Holt's presence was a constant shadow, his patrols lingering too long outside the diner. Lily returned to the gallery, sitting beside Grace. "You did good, kid," Grace whispered, squeezing her hand. Lily nodded, but her eyes were distant. Sarah knew why. Testifying meant exposing their family to more scrutiny. Kids at school would talk. The town's whispers would grow louder. That night, in their small house on Maple Street, Sarah lay awake, Grace's arm draped over her. "What if the jury doesn't believe her?" Sarah whispered. Grace kissed her shoulder. "They'll see the truth. Lily's not just our daughter, she's our warrior." The next day, Rachel called a surprise witness, Maria Lopez, a waitress at Mabel's who'd been in the back during the incident. Maria, a 30-year-old single mom, had seen everything through the kitchen window. Her testimony could tip the scales or make her a target in a town that protected its own. As Maria took the stand, Sarah's heart raced. The truth was unfolding, but at what cost? Maria Lopez's footsteps echoed in the courtroom, each one a quiet act of courage. She was a familiar face in Willow Creek, her warm smile a staple at Mabel's, where she served coffee with a side of small-town charm. But today, her hands shook as she swore to tell the truth, her dark eyes flicking nervously toward Sarah. Rachel Torres approached, her voice steady. "Ms. Lopez, you were working at Mabel's the night of the incident, correct?" "Yes," Maria said, her accent soft but clear. "I was in the kitchen, cleaning up." "Can you describe what you saw?" Rachel asked. Maria took a breath, her gaze steadying. "I saw Officer Holt pull up, lights flashing. Sarah was locking the front door, and Lily was inside. He started asking questions, real aggressive. Sarah stayed calm, asked if he had a warrant. That's when he got mad." The jury leaned forward, a few scribbling notes. Sarah's pulse quickened. Maria's words were a lifeline, but they came with a price. Willow Creek didn't take kindly to those who challenged its own, especially not someone like Maria, a single mom already stretched thin. "Did you see Sarah push Officer Holt?" Rachel pressed. "No," Maria said firmly. "He pushed her first into the counter." Lily screamed, and he grabbed Sarah's arm, twisted it. She didn't fight back, she was just trying to protect her kid. Vance stood for cross-examination, his tone sharp. "Ms. Lopez, you were in the kitchen, behind a window. Isn't it possible your view was obstructed?" Maria shook her head. "The window's clear. I saw everything." "And you're sure you're not just siding with your boss?" Vance asked, his words dripping with insinuation. Maria's eyes flashed. "I'm siding with the truth. Sarah's good people. She doesn't deserve this." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Sarah caught Grace's eye, both of them holding their breath. Maria's testimony corroborated Lily's, but it also painted a target on her back. Holt's friends, other cops, locals who saw him as a hero, wouldn't let this slide. The judge dismissed Maria, and the courtroom buzzed as the day's session ended. Sarah was led back to the holding room, her mind racing. Grace and Lily joined her, their faces a mix of hope and fear. "You think they believed her?" Sarah asked Rachel, her voice low. Rachel nodded. "Maria's credible. No record, no agenda. But Vance will try to discredit her, say she's loyal to you, not objective." Lily hugged Sarah tightly. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Mom." Sarah kissed her forehead. "You're the one up there fighting, kid." "I'm so proud." That night, at home, the family sat around their kitchen table, a rare moment of quiet. Grace's latest painting, a vibrant swirl of blues and reds, hung on the wall, a reminder of the passion that had drawn Sarah to her. Lily flipped through her sketchbook, her pencil tracing the outline of a figure that looked like Sarah, standing tall. "I'm scared for Maria," Lily said suddenly. "Kids at school already talk about her. They'll make it worse now." Grace reached for Lily's hand. Maria chose to speak up. "That's what courage looks like." Sarah nodded, but guilt gnawed at her. She'd never wanted anyone else dragged into this mess. Holt's actions weren't just about that night, they were part of a pattern. Last year, he'd pulled Grace over for a broken taillight that wasn't broken. 2 years ago, he'd questioned Sarah about a vandalism report at the diner, which turned out to be a false tip. Each incident chipped away at their peace, a reminder that their love was still a threat to some. The next day in court, Vance called a rebuttal witness, Officer James Carter, Holt's partner. Carter, a wiry man in his 30s, backed Holt's story, claiming Sarah had been hostile and uncooperative. His testimony was polished, rehearsed, and Sarah's stomach sank. The jury was split. Some nodded at Carter's words, others looked skeptical. Rachel's cross-examination was fierce. "Officer Carter, were you inside the diner during the incident?" "No, I was in the cruiser," Carter admitted. "So you didn't see the initial interaction?" Carter hesitated. "I saw enough. Enough to confirm Holt's story, but not enough to contradict Lily or Maria?" Rachel pressed. Carter's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. The seed of doubt was planted, but Sarah knew it wasn't enough. The jury needed more, a reason to believe Holt's bias ran deeper than a single night. That evening, Rachel met with Sarah, Grace, and Lily at their home. "We need to show Holt's pattern," Rachel said. "Other incidents, other targets. I've got a lead, another woman in town, Emma Riley. She says Holt harassed her last year, targeted her for being trans. If she testifies, it could prove he's not just a cop doing his job." Sarah's heart sank. Emma's been through enough. If she speaks up, they'll tear her apart. Grace's eyes darkened. "They're already tearing us apart. If Emma's willing, we can't say no." Lily looked up from her sketchbook. "I'll talk to her. She trusts me." Sarah stared at her daughter, pride and fear warring inside her. Lily was stepping into a fight bigger than any of them, and the cost was growing heavier by the day. Lily's sneakers crunched on the gravel path to Emma Riley's house, a small cottage tucked behind a row of pines. At 16, Lily had learned to navigate Willow Creek's undercurrents, the whispers about her moms, the sideways glances at school. But approaching Emma, a 38-year-old trans woman who'd faced her own battles in this town, felt different. It was personal, urgent, a plea for help that could change everything. Emma opened the door, her warm brown eyes cautious, but kind. Her blonde hair was pulled back, and she wore a soft sweater that matched the autumn leaves outside. "Lily," she said, stepping aside. "Come in." Inside, the cottage smelled of lavender and fresh paint. Emma was an artist like Grace, though her work, delicate watercolors of landscapes, felt quieter, more introspective. Lily clutched her sketchbook, a talisman of courage. "I know about what happened with Officer Holt," Lily said, sitting on a worn couch. "Mom's trial, we need you to testify." Emma's face tightened. "I heard. Sarah doesn't deserve this. But speaking up, it's not easy." Lily nodded. I know. I testified, and it's scary. But you saw what Holt did to you last year. If you tell the jury, they might see he's targeting people like us. Emma's story wasn't new to Lily. Last spring, Holt had pulled Emma over, claiming her license plate was obscured. He'd questioned her gender, made cruel remarks, and issued a ticket she couldn't afford. The ticket was later dropped, but the humiliation lingered. Emma had kept quiet, fearing retaliation, but Lily saw the fire in her eyes now, a spark of defiance. "I'll think about it," Emma said finally. "For Sarah. And for you." Back in court the next day, the air was electric with anticipation. Rachel had filed a motion to introduce Emma's testimony, arguing it showed Holt's pattern of bias. Vance fought it, calling it irrelevant character assassination, but the judge allowed it, his expression unreadable. Emma took the stand, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Last April, Officer Holt pulled me over," she began. "He said my plate was unreadable, but it wasn't. He asked for my ID, then made comments about my identity. Said I didn't look right for the name on my license." The jury shifted, some leaning forward, others exchanging glances. Sarah's heart ached for Emma, exposed under the courtroom's harsh lights. Grace squeezed Sarah's hand under the table, her grip fierce. Rachel pressed gently. "Did Officer Holt issue a citation?" "Yes," Emma said. "For $200. I fought it in court and won, but he made me feel less than human." Vance's cross-examination was brutal. "Ms. Riley, isn't it true you were argumentative during the stop?" "No," Emma said, her voice firm. "I was polite. He was the one who escalated." The testimony landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through the courtroom. Sarah saw doubt in some jurors' eyes, but others, older, sterner, remained unmoved. Willow Creek's roots ran deep, and change was slow. After court, Sarah, Grace, and Lily met Emma at Mabel's. The diner was closed, but Sarah unlocked it, the familiar jingle of the bell a small comfort. They sat in a booth, coffee steaming between them. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice thick. "I know that wasn't easy." Emma smiled faintly. "I did it for me too. Holt's been untouchable too long." Lily slid her sketchbook across the table, open to a drawing of Emma surrounded by wildflowers, her face serene. "This is how I see you," Lily said. Emma's eyes welled up. "You're a gift, Lily." The moment was cut short by a brick crashing through the diner's window. Glass shattered and Lily screamed, ducking under the table. Sarah lunged to shield her, heart pounding. Scrawled on the brick in Sharpie was a single word: freaks. Grace's face hardened as she called the police, not Holt, but a different officer. Sarah held Lily, her own fear swallowed by rage. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person in Willow Creek who'd been targeted, silenced, broken. The next day, Rachel used the vandalism to argue Holt's actions had incited hate. She presented photos of the brick, the glass, the hateful word. The judge allowed it, but Vance objected, claiming it was unrelated. The jury's faces were a mix of shock and discomfort, some clearly shaken, others skeptical. Sarah's hope flickered. The truth was piling up, but Willow Creek's loyalty to its own ran deep. Holt wasn't just a cop, he was a symbol of the town's old guard. Could Lily's courage, Maria's honesty, and Emma's bravery outweigh that? As the trial neared its climax, Rachel prepared to call one final witness, a retired officer who'd worked with Holt years ago. He claimed to have evidence of Holt's misconduct buried in old reports. If he testified, it could seal the case or ignite a firestorm. Sarah looked at Lily, sketching quietly in the gallery. Her daughter was the heart of this fight, the reason she kept going. Whatever came next, Sarah knew one thing: they'd face it together. The brick through Mabel's window left a jagged wound in the diner's heart, and Sarah felt it in her own. She spent the morning sweeping glass, her hands trembling not from fear, but from a fury she could barely contain. Grace and Lily worked beside her, their silence heavy with shared resolve. The vandalism wasn't just an attack on their family, it was a message to anyone who dared challenge Willow Creek's unspoken rules. In court, the air was thick with tension. Rachel Torres called her final witness, Tom Whitaker, a retired officer in his 60s, his face weathered but his eyes sharp. Whitaker had served alongside Holt for a decade before retiring. His testimony could be the key to exposing Holt's history or a risk that could backfire. Rachel approached, her voice steady. "Mr. Whitaker, you worked with Officer Holt from 2008 to 2018. Did you ever witness behavior that suggested bias?" Whitaker nodded, his hands clasped. "More than once. Holt had a way of targeting folks who didn't fit in, people of color, queer folks, anyone different. He'd bend the rules, write up false reports. I saw it, but I didn't speak up then. I regret that." The courtroom buzzed. Sarah's breath caught. Whitaker's words were a crack in Holt's armor. Grace squeezed her hand, hope flickering in her eyes. "Can you give an example?" Rachel asked. "In 2015, he pulled over a black teenager, claimed he was speeding. Kid wasn't. Holt roughed him up, wrote it up as resisting. I filed a complaint, but it got buried. That wasn't the only time." Vance's cross-examination was swift. "Mr. Whitaker, you're retired. No pension issues? No grudges against the department?" Whitaker's jaw tightened. "I'm here because it's right. Holt's been dodging accountability for years." The jury's faces were hard to read. Some seemed convinced, others skeptical, their small-town loyalties clashing with the mounting evidence. Sarah's heart pounded. Whitaker's testimony was powerful, but it relied on a jury willing to question one of their own. As court adjourned, Sarah, Grace, and Lily returned to Mabel's. The broken window was boarded up, but the diner felt colder, its warmth stolen. Locals still came for coffee, but some avoided Sarah's eyes, their silence louder than words. Others, like Mrs. Carter, an 80-year-old regular, left a note with her tip, "Keep fighting, dear." That night, Lily sat at the kitchen table, sketching furiously. Sarah peeked at the drawing, a courtroom scene, with Lily on the stand, her moms behind her, faces fierce with love. "You're so strong, Lil," Sarah said, sitting beside her. "But I hate that you're carrying this." Lily looked up, her green eyes fierce. "I'm not letting them win, Mom. Not Holt, not the town." Grace joined them, her hands stained with paint from a late-night session. "We're a family. We fight together." The next day, Rachel delivered her closing argument. She stood before the jury, her voice a blend of fire and compassion. "This case isn't just about one night. It's about a pattern of bias, of abuse, of a town that's looked the other way." Sarah Coleman didn't resist arrest. She stood up for her daughter. "Lily, Maria, Emma, and Tom, they've shown you the truth. Will you?" Vance's closing was slick, leaning on Holt's badge and the town's trust in its police. Officer Holt acted in good faith. Sarah Coleman's actions escalated a routine stop. Don't let emotion cloud the facts. The jury filed out to deliberate, and Sarah felt time slow, each second a weight on her chest. Grace held her hand. Lily leaned against her, their family a small fortress against the storm. Hours passed in the holding room, the silence broken only by Lily's soft humming, a song Grace used to sing to her as a child. Finally, the bailiff called them back. Sarah's legs felt unsteady as she walked to the defendant's table, Grace and Lily in the gallery behind her. The jury foreman, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Sarah Coleman, not guilty." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Grace sobbed, pulling Lily into a fierce hug. Sarah's knees buckled, relief flooding her. Rachel smiled, a rare crack in her professional mask. But the victory felt bittersweet. Holt's face was stone as he left the courtroom, his badge still gleaming. The town's whispers wouldn't stop. The brick through the window was a reminder that some battles didn't end with a verdict. As they left the courthouse, Sarah spotted Emma in the crowd, her face lit with a quiet smile. Maria stood nearby, her son clinging to her hand. They'd all paid a price for the truth, but they'd paid it together. At home, Sarah, Grace, and Lily sat on their porch, the autumn air crisp. Lily opened her sketchbook, revealing a new drawing, 3 figures holding hands, surrounded by wildflowers, a rainbow in the sky. "This is us," Lily said. "No matter what." Sarah pulled her close, Grace's arm around them both. The truth had set her free, but it was their love that would carry them forward. The courthouse steps felt like a battlefield as Sarah, Grace, and Lily descended, the weight of the verdict lifting, but not erasing the scars. The autumn sun hung low, casting long shadows over Willow Creek's quiet streets, where whispers of the trial were already spreading. Sarah's acquittal was a victory, but it wasn't the end. Holt still walked free, and the town's divisions ran deeper than ever. At Mabel's that evening, the diner buzzed with a cautious energy. Regulars trickled in, some offering nods of support, others avoiding Sarah's gaze. Maria worked the counter, her smile strained but steady. The boarded-up window loomed like a silent accusation, a reminder that truth came at a cost. Lily sat in her usual booth, sketching, her red curls falling over her face. Sarah watched her, marveling at the courage packed into her slight frame. "You changed everything, Lil," Sarah said, sliding into the booth. Lily looked up, her green eyes soft but fierce. "I just told the truth. You taught me that." Grace joined them, her hands still flecked with paint from a morning in her studio. "We're not done fighting," she said, her voice low. "Holt's still out there. This town, it's not ready to change." Sarah nodded, her heart heavy. The trial had exposed Holt's bias, but he hadn't been charged, hadn't lost his badge. The jury's verdict cleared her name, but it didn't erase the brick through their window or the years of subtle slights, flat tires, anonymous notes, cold stares at the grocery store. The next morning, Sarah woke to a call from Rachel. "There's a meeting at the community center tonight," Rachel said. "Some folks want to talk about Holt, about holding the police accountable. Emma's coming. You should too." Sarah hesitated. She was exhausted, her body and soul bruised from the trial. But Grace's eyes met hers, a silent challenge. "We can't stop now," Grace said. "Not when Lily's watching." That evening, the community center was packed, the air thick with tension. Sarah recognized faces: Mrs. Carter, the diner regular, Tom Whitaker, the retired officer, even a few jurors. Emma stood near the front, her presence a quiet strength. Lily clutched her sketchbook, her eyes scanning the room. Rachel opened the meeting, her voice clear. "This isn't about one trial. It's about a pattern, Officer Holt's and this town's. We need transparency, accountability. We need change." A man in the back, a local mechanic named Carl, stood. "Holt's just doing his job. Y'all are making him a villain for one mistake." Emma spoke up, her voice steady. "It's not one mistake. It's years of targeting people like me, like Sarah and Grace. If we stay silent, it keeps happening." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some nodding, others crossing their arms. Sarah's stomach churned. This was Willow Creek's heart laid bare, torn between loyalty to tradition and a growing call for justice. Lily stood, her voice cutting through the noise. "My moms didn't do anything wrong. Neither did Emma, or Maria, or anyone else Holt's hurt. If you think he's just doing his job, you're not paying attention." The room fell silent. Sarah's chest swelled with pride, but fear lingered. Lily was exposing herself again, a target for a town that didn't always forgive. Mrs. Carter, her voice frail but firm, spoke next. "I've lived here 80 years. Seen a lot change and a lot stay the same. It's time we stand up for what's right." The meeting ended with no clear resolution, but a seed was planted. A small group, Sarah, Grace, Emma, Maria, and a few others, agreed to push for an investigation into Holt's conduct. Rachel offered to connect them with a civil rights lawyer in Portland. Back at home, Sarah found Lily on the porch, sketching under the stars. The drawing was of the community center, faces blurred but hopeful, a faint rainbow in the sky. "You're not scared?" Sarah asked, sitting beside her. Lily shrugged. "A little. But you and Mom never back down." "I won't either." Grace joined them, wrapping a blanket around Lily's shoulders. "We're a team, kid. Always." The next day, Sarah reopened Mabel's, the boarded-up window a stark reminder of the fight ahead. A few locals stopped by with donations to replace the glass, small acts of solidarity that felt like lifelines. But others drove past, their silence loud. By week's end, Rachel called with news. The Portland lawyer had found 2 more cases of Holt's misconduct, buried in old complaints. If they could get them admitted in a formal investigation, it might force the department to act. Sarah's hope flickered, but so did her fear. Holt wasn't alone, he had allies, power a badge. Pushing further meant risking more than a brick through a window. But as she watched Lily laugh with Grace over breakfast, she knew they had no choice. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The new glass in Mabel's window gleamed, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling it was a fragile shield. Willow Creek's streets felt quieter now, as if the town was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. The community meeting had stirred something, a fragile hope in some, a defensive anger in others. Sarah, Grace, and Lily were at the heart of it, their family a lightning rod for change. Rachel's call about the Portland lawyer had lit a spark. The lawyer, Aisha Khan, was a force, sharp, relentless, with a track record of taking on small-town corruption. She'd uncovered 2 complaints against Holt, one from a Latino shop owner harassed in 2019, another from a gay couple ticketed repeatedly for parking violations that didn't exist. Both had been buried, dismissed as misunderstandings. Aisha was building a case for a formal investigation, but she needed more: witnesses, documents, courage. Sarah met Aisha at Mabel's, the diner a neutral ground where the hum of coffee pots softened the weight of their conversation. Aisha, in her late 30s, had a calm intensity, her dark eyes scanning the room like she could see its secrets. "This won't be easy," she said, sipping her coffee. "Holt's got friends in the department. But we've got a shot if we can show a pattern." "What do you need from us?" Sarah asked, her hands wrapped around a mug for warmth. "Names," Aisha said. "Anyone who's been targeted. And Lily, she's your strongest voice. Her testimony in court was powerful. If she's willing, she could rally others." Sarah's stomach twisted. Lily had already given so much, her courage laid bare in a courtroom that judged her as much as it judged Sarah. Asking her to do more felt like asking her to walk through fire. That night, Sarah and Grace sat Lily down in their living room, the pride flag in the corner a quiet reminder of their strength. "Aisha thinks you could help," Sarah said gently. "Talk to people, get them to come forward. But only if you want to." Lily's green eyes flickered with determination. "I'm in. If it stops Holt, I'll do it." Grace reached for her hand. "You're sure? This town, it's not kind to people who speak up." "I know," Lily said. "But I'm not letting him hurt anyone else." The next day, Lily started at school, quietly asking friends if they knew anyone who'd had run-ins with Holt. She was careful, choosing those she trusted, kids who'd faced their own struggles, who understood what it meant to be other. By the end of the week, she'd found 3. A black senior who'd been stopped for suspicious behavior while walking home, a non-binary classmate who'd been questioned for loitering outside the library, and a shy girl whose brother had been roughed up by Holt at a gas station. Lily brought their stories to Aisha, who met them at the community center. The room felt different now, less hostile, more open, as if the town was starting to listen. Emma was there, her watercolors displayed on a table, a quiet act of defiance. Maria came too, her son playing nearby as she shared her own fears about speaking up. Aisha took notes, her pen flying. "This is good," she said. "If we can get these folks to sign affidavits, we can push for a state review. Holt's not untouchable." But the pushback came fast. That night, Sarah found a note taped to Mabel's door. Leave it alone. No signature, just Sharpie on crumpled paper. Grace's car tires were slashed the next morning, the second time in a month. At school, Lily overheard whispers, classmates calling her a troublemaker, some parents telling their kids to stay away. Sarah's heart ached as she watched Lily retreat to her sketchbook, her pencil carving out a world safer than the one outside. "You can stop, Lil," Sarah said one evening, sitting on her bed. "You've done enough." Lily shook her head. "If I stop, he wins. I'm not just doing this for us. It's for everyone." Grace joined them, her paint-stained hands cupping Lily's face. "You're braver than both of us combined." The next week, Aisha filed a formal complaint with the State Police Oversight Board, citing Holt's pattern of misconduct. The affidavits from Lily's friends, combined with Emma's, Maria's, and Whitaker's testimonies, were enough to trigger an investigation. Willow Creek buzzed with gossip. Some called it a witch hunt, others a reckoning. Sarah felt the town's eyes on her every time she walked into Mabel's. Some regulars stopped coming, their absence a silent protest. But others, like Mrs. Carter and a young couple who'd started leaving bigger tips, stood by her, their support a quiet rebellion. As the investigation loomed, Sarah knew the real fight was coming. Holt wasn't the type to go quietly, and Willow Creek wasn't ready to let go of its old ways. But with Lily's courage and Grace's fire, Sarah felt a strength she hadn't known she had. The truth was their weapon, and they weren't done wielding it. The state investigation into Officer Holt sent ripples through Willow Creek like a stone dropped in a still pond. Sarah felt the shift at Mabel's, fewer glares, more whispered conversations. Some locals stopped by to apologize, their words awkward but sincere. Others doubled down, their pickup trucks lingering too long in the diner's parking lot, headlights glaring. Aisha Khan worked tirelessly, meeting with Sarah, Grace, and Lily at their home to prepare for the investigation's first hearing. The state board would review Holt's record, the affidavits, and any evidence the department couldn't bury. Aisha's confidence was infectious, but Sarah knew the stakes. Holt's allies, cops, city council members, old money families, were circling, ready to protect their own. Lily, meanwhile, was a quiet storm. At school, she faced whispers and cold shoulders, but she kept talking, gathering more stories. A teacher, Mr. Evans, shared a hushed account of Holt intimidating a student years ago. A librarian mentioned a disorderly conduct citation Holt had issued to a homeless man, dropped when no evidence surfaced. Each story was a thread, weaving a tapestry of abuse too large to ignore. One evening, Sarah found Lily in her room, sketching a portrait of the family, Sarah and Grace laughing, Lily between them, a rainbow flag in the background. "This is what I'm fighting for," Lily said, her voice soft but steady. "So we can just be." Sarah pulled her close, tears stinging her eyes. "You're my hero, kid." Grace joined them, her hands warm from the kiln she'd been using to make ceramic mugs for a gallery show. "We're gonna get through this," she said, her voice fierce. "All of us." The hearing was set for a crisp October morning at the county courthouse, a larger stage than Willow Creek's small courtroom. Sarah, Grace, and Lily arrived early, joined by Emma, Maria, and Tom Whitaker. Aisha had coached them. Stay calm, stick to the facts, let the evidence speak. But Sarah's heart raced as they entered, the room packed with reporters, locals, and a few unfamiliar faces, activists from Portland, drawn by the case's growing buzz. Aisha presented the affidavits, detailing Holt's pattern of targeting marginalized residents. Emma's testimony about her traffic stop drew gasps. The Latino shop owner's story of repeated inspections sparked murmurs. Lily's account of the diner incident, paired with Maria's, painted a vivid picture of Holt's aggression. Whitaker's words carried weight, his decades on the force lending credibility. Holt sat at the defense table, his face a mask of calm, but Sarah saw the tension in his jaw. His lawyer argued the complaints were exaggerated, the work of a vocal minority, out to smear a good cop. But the board's chair, a stern woman from Salem, seemed unmoved by the defense's spin. After the hearing, Aisha gathered the group at a nearby cafe. "We've got traction," she said, her eyes bright. "The board's requesting Holt's full record, every complaint, every report." That's a win. But the victory was short-lived. That night, Sarah woke to the smell of smoke. She bolted upright, heart pounding, and saw an orange glow outside. "Grace! Lily!" she shouted, rushing to the window. Their front yard was ablaze, a pride flag, staked into the grass, burning like a torch. Grace dialed 911 while Sarah grabbed a fire extinguisher, dousing the flames. Lily stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear. By the time the fire truck arrived, the flag was ash, the grass scorched. The responding officer, not Holt, but one of his colleagues, took a report, but his questions felt hollow, his notepad barely touched. The next morning, the local paper ran a story on the hearing, but a sidebar mentioned the fire, calling it a prank gone wrong. Sarah's blood boiled. "A prank didn't leave your daughter shaking, your home violated." Lily refused to stay silent. She posted about the fire on social media, her words raw. "This is what happens when you speak up in Willow Creek. But I'm not stopping." Her post spread, shared by Portland activists, then national queer advocacy groups. By noon, a small crowd gathered outside Mabel's, holding signs, "Justice for Sarah, Stop Hate in Willow Creek." Sarah watched, stunned, as strangers stood for her family. Grace's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. "This is bigger than us now," Grace whispered. But the escalation brought new fears. Aisha warned that Holt's allies might retaliate, digging into Sarah's or Grace's past for leverage. And Lily, still a target at school, came home with a bruise on her arm, a bump during gym, she claimed, but Sarah saw the truth in her daughter's eyes. As the investigation deepened, Sarah felt the weight of every choice. They could back off, protect their family, live quietly. Or they could keep fighting, knowing the cost might break them. Lily's sketchbook, open on the kitchen table, held the answer, a drawing of their burned flag, rising from ashes, colors brighter than ever. The burned flag's ashes lingered in Sarah's mind, a scar on their home as real as the boarded-up window at Mabel's. Willow Creek was splitting. Some rallied behind Sarah's family, others clung to Holt's badge like a shield. The state investigation was gaining steam, but so was the backlash, a tide of anger from those who saw change as a threat. Aisha Khan pushed forward, unyielding. She'd secured more evidence, a 2017 internal memo warning Holt about excessive force complaints, ignored by the department. She also found a dashcam video from one of Holt's stops, showing him intimidating a young black driver for no clear reason. The evidence was damning, but Willow Creek's police chief, a grizzled man named Burnett, stood by Holt, calling the accusations overblown. Sarah felt the pressure at Mabel's. Business was down, some locals boycotting after Lily's viral post. But others came in droves, activists from Portland, college kids, even a few churchgoers who'd sat silent too long. Mrs. Carter organized a fundraiser to replace the diner's window, her frail hands passing out flyers. "This town's better than this," she told Sarah, her voice firm. Lily, meanwhile, was a force. She met with Aisha after school, helping organize a petition for Holt's suspension. Over 200 signatures came in, many from outside Willow Creek, a sign the story was spreading. But at school, the cost was clear. A group of boys had cornered her in the hallway, calling her moms troublemakers. The bruise on her arm wasn't from Jim, Sarah knew it, but Lily brushed it off, her focus on the fight. One evening, Sarah found Lily at the kitchen table, sketching a mural design for Mabel's, a vibrant scene of diverse faces, hands linked, a rainbow weaving through. "I want to paint this on the new window," Lily said. "So everyone knows we're not hiding." Sarah's heart swelled, but fear gnawed at her. "It's beautiful, Lil. But it'll make you a bigger target." Lily's eyes met hers. "I'm already a target. Might as well make it count." "Grace, drying paintbrushes nearby, nodded. She's right. We can't let them scare us into silence. The next hearing was packed, the courthouse a pressure cooker. Aisha presented the memo and dashcam video, each piece tightening the noose around Holt's career. His lawyer fought back, claiming the complaints were isolated and the video out of context. But the board's chair, her face unreadable, took notes, her pen steady. Holt took the stand, his voice calm but his eyes cold. I've served this town for 20 years, he said. These accusations are a smear, pushed by people who don't respect the law. His gaze flicked to Sarah, a silent challenge. Aisha's cross-examination was surgical. Officer Holt, can you explain why a 2017 memo cited you for excessive force, yet no action was taken? Holt's jaw tightened. That was a misunderstanding. Cleared up internally. And the dashcam video? Was that a misunderstanding too? The room tensed. Holt's lawyer objected, but the chair overruled, her eyes locked on Holt. He stammered, his composure cracking. After the hearing, Sarah, Grace, and Lily drove to Portland for Grace's gallery show, a brief escape. Grace's paintings, bold, chaotic swirls of color, drew a crowd, their energy a stark contrast to Willow Creek's gray tension. Lily wandered the gallery, sketching in her notebook, while Sarah watched Grace shine, her wife's passion a reminder of why they fought. But the night wasn't all joy. Aisha called with news. The board was leaning toward suspending Holt, but pressure from the police union was fierce. They're digging into your past, Aisha warned Sarah. Anything they can use, old arrests, taxes, anything. Sarah's stomach dropped. Her past wasn't spotless, a misdemeanor from her 20s, a protest that got out of hand. She'd been young, angry, fighting a world that didn't want her. Would that be weaponized now? Back in Willow Creek, the tension boiled over. A protest formed outside the police station, split between Holt's supporters waving "Back the Blue" signs and those demanding justice, led by Emma and a group of Portland activists. Lily joined them, her mural sketch taped to a sign, "Love Wins." Sarah watched from Mabel's, her heart torn. Lily was fearless, but every step she took pulled her deeper into the storm. That night, Sarah found a new note on their porch, "You're not welcome here." Grace burned it in the fireplace, her eyes blazing. They don't get to decide that. As the investigation's final hearing loomed, Sarah knew the truth was close to breaking through. But in Willow Creek, truth wasn't enough. You had to fight for it, bleed for it, love through it. The final hearing loomed like a storm cloud over Willow Creek, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Sarah, Grace, and Lily arrived at the county courthouse under a gray October sky, their hands linked, a silent bout to face whatever came next. Mabel's was closed for the day, its new window gleaming with Lily's mural, faces of all colors, hands joined, a rainbow weaving through. It was a declaration, a defiance, a promise. Inside, the courtroom was packed, reporters, activists, locals, their faces a mix of hope and hostility. Aisha Khan stood at the front, her briefcase stuffed with evidence, affidavits, the 2017 memo, the dashcam video, and a new bombshell, a leaked email from Chief Burnett to Holt, warning him to clean up his reports. The state board's chair, Ms. Hargrove, sat sternly, her eyes scanning the room. Aisha's closing argument was a masterpiece of precision and passion. "This isn't about one officer's mistake," she said. "It's about a system that let Daniel Holt target people, Sarah Coleman, Emma Riley, countless others, for who they are. The evidence is clear, memos ignored, complaints buried, lives harmed. Willow Creek deserves better. Justice demands it." Holt's lawyer countered, painting him as a dedicated cop under attack. "These are isolated incidents, exaggerated by a vocal few. Officer Holt has served this community for 2 decades. Don't let a handful of stories erase that." Sarah's heart pounded as the board adjourned to deliberate. Grace's hand was warm in hers, Lily's head resting on her shoulder. They waited in a small room, the silence heavy but not empty, filled with the love that had carried them this far. Hours later, Miss Hargrove returned. After review, she said, her voice steady, we find sufficient evidence of misconduct. Officer Daniel Holt is suspended pending a full investigation. The Willow Creek Police Department will undergo an external audit. The room erupted, cheers from activists, grumbles from Holt's supporters. Sarah's knees weakened, relief flooding her. Grace pulled her close, tears streaming down her face. Lily grinned, her sketchbook open to a new drawing, their family, standing tall, a courthouse in the background. Holt's face was ashen as he left, his badge no longer a shield. But Sarah knew this wasn't the end. The audit would dig deeper, and Willow Creek would have to face itself, its biases, its silence, its chance to change. That night, Mabel's reopened, the diner alive with music and laughter. Emma brought her watercolors, displaying them on the walls. Maria served coffee, her son giggling at the counter. Mrs. Carter handed out slices of pie, her smile wide. Portland activists mingled with locals, their signs now reading Willow Creek for All. Lily unveiled her mural to applause, its colors bright against the new glass. This is for everyone who's been hurt, she said, her voice clear. And for everyone who's ready to make things right. Sarah watched, her heart full. The trial had been about her freedom, but this was about their future. Grace's arm slipped around her waist, her lips brushing Sarah's ear. We did it, she whispered. No, Sarah said, smiling at Lily. She did. The road ahead wasn't easy. Holt's suspension wasn't a conviction, and the town's old guard still grumbled. Sarah and Grace faced whispers at the grocery store, and Lily still caught glares at school. But something had shifted. The diner was busier, new faces joining the old. A local church invited Sarah to speak, a small step toward healing. Months later, the audit led to reforms, mandatory bias training, a civilian review board, a new chief who listened. Holt resigned quietly, his name fading from Willow Creek streets. Sarah, Grace, and Lily kept fighting, not just for themselves, but for every kid who felt different, every family told they didn't belong. One spring evening, they sat on their porch, Lily sketching, Grace painting, Sarah sipping coffee. The pride flag was back in their yard, unburned, its colors bright. Lily's latest drawing was of Willow Creek, a town not perfect, but trying, its streets lined with wildflowers. This is home, Lily said, her voice soft. Sarah looked at her family, their love a fire that no brick, no note, no badge could extinguish. They'd face the worst and come out stronger, not just for themselves, but for everyone who'd stood with them. The truth had set them free, but it was their courage, their love, that made them whole.